Hey, I'm Nathan from Pax8 Academy, Executive Coach for the APAC region, and I've got Tom here. Tom, what does tell us about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Tom Buckley. I'm the CEO at All IT Services, and we've been around for over 20 years and part of the Pax family for, I think, a bit over 12 months now, so not long, but it feels like a lot longer than that.
Yeah. And what is it specifically that you guys do, you deal with, you work with?
Yeah, so we look after, obviously, the typical managed services that a lot of MSPs do, but in a very managed approach to the medium-sized, specifically the medium-sized market. So thinking sort of organisations above 40, 50 people, right through. We do look after a number of bigger businesses, ASX listed companies, and a number of large private entities that are big employees. So we look after that in a fully managed approach. We also do a lot in the co-managed space for some US clients that otherwise don't have a capacity in Australia, which has been very successful for us. Managed security, managed IT, a lot of project services. That's been a big one for us in recent years. And of course, a lot in audit compliance. That's a massively growing area for us.
Yeah, okay. And you're starting to grow into those bigger industries and you get the bigger partners, bigger clients that you're working with. What have you found through that journey from going to working with the smaller businesses, because you had a background with
hospitality. We're a reasonably sized area in hospitality, which had a number of big customers, and obviously through the evolution of COVID and what have you, that it changed some of that, and we wanted to diversify prior to that. So we really started to think strategically about who our customer and client should be for the long term, and that's not necessarily specified around industry. It's really around the profile of the client. What is important to us is the customer relationship. So if we're not feeling the customer relationship and it has a long-term, engagement where we can really engage with the customer at a personal level, then we won't take it on. We're getting a little bit more serious about that. Whereas, in previous, when we were a bit younger and a little bit more green, we'd probably thought all business was good business. Yeah. So that's certainly changed in the last few years. So we've got a lot more stringent on that, and we need to get better at that. But really the journey has been, as we've taken on bigger clients, we've always had pretty good process and we've streamlined our technology stack pretty well. But the biggest change has been process, and as I say, technology stack was pretty good. It continues to improve, but the process was good. But we immediately recognised that we can't scale, and we're not about putting huge amounts of excessive growth on. We're about sustainable growth, but you can't do that without that next level of efficiency and process, and that was recognised early in the piece, and we looked at options on how to do that. We're under no pretenses that we're the be-all and end-all and can do it ourselves. So that's sort of where that journey with you guys started. Yeah,
cool. And do you want to talk about that journey and your perspective on that?
So we did a lot of research and working out what we need. And that was, we've got processes. Are they the best? No, they're not. Do we want to reinvent the wheel? No. Some things we'll have a crack at and be very, it's our way, as through our journey, which has been great.
Some great stuff.
But I think one of the big things is obviously with Pax8 and the Academy is, you've got all the systems and the tools and all those sorts of things, and they're hugely important, and we've certainly leveraged them. But it's the one-on-one coaching that is, we saw straight away that was the key, because, you can get a pack of all the processes in the world that are deemed best practice, but they're not best practice for you and your organisation and your customers. They need a lot of moulding. They need moulding to the people so that the people bring the process, and the process comes along the journey with them and the people. Because if you've got process and it's not put in place with enthusiasm and thought and without input, then the process is simply not going to be followed. So that's been a really big one, and you've taken us on that journey, which we'll get into, but it's been very important for us that the engagement and the accountability is there. And that's one very strong thing about the Academy, is that we've got you've given us a lot of great process, but we've moulded the heck out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Through your help. And that's been really, really important. We continue to do it. I mean, I think I sometimes feel like we've been going for a long time, and we're a bit slow at it. You keep telling us we're going along probably too fast at times. So it's good at that, that level of sort of reining in and slowing down sometimes and, speeding up has been great. It really comes back to accountability.
Yeah. And like you talked about with the speeding up, slowing down, because I know how you operate. You like to get things done, and I'm also the same. So sometimes I can find that from a coaching perspective of I just want to get things done. I want to get them in place. But as we were going through that journey, we were finding that the speed you were working at was starting to leave people behind. I think there was a really great learnings from that as well, with getting that buy-in with your team, and also elevating and bringing along your own management and leadership team so that they could start coming into it as well.
Yeah, I think to that point when you say we sped up, we did, and that was also coupled with the fact that we'd done a lot of growth. Customer growth, and you can't. One thing that I have learned is that if you're doing a lot of process change and a lot of change within the business with people, and you're growing fast, something gives in that. So I think we all go through those evolutions of growth, and that whether that's customer growth or internal growth and people growth. You can't sort of go at the same speed all the time in all those areas. You've got to sort of choose your battles and go, okay, well, we've for example, at the moment, we've gone through a whole process of bringing a number of bigger customers, and that's sort of coming out the tail end of that as we go into the Christmas period, which has allowed us, as in the last sort of month or 6 weeks, to really nail process in regards to that. Whereas prior to that period, we were going a bit too fast on process. And people sort of get lost in that, and again, you're right. It's you don't get the buy-in. You don't really, and the processes don't stick. Because they haven't been brought along with the process. They haven't had their input and what works and what doesn't work. It's sort of been, at times you can do all this and shove what you think is the creme de la creme of the vision and what have you down people's throats and say just do it. It doesn't work. It may work for a short period of time, but it doesn't stick.
You end up having to manage with the carrot of you have to do this because I told you have to do this, as opposed to
that's no good.
Them understanding it and seeing why it's a good idea. So a big thing that I'm always talking with partners and managers and leaders is that understanding the perspective of the people who you're bringing along, because they have to change the way that they're working. They have to change their behaviours or the processes that they work to. And that gets built up as habits. Habits can be really hard to break. So what are the things that we can do that'll make it easier for them, that they can understand, and the perspective of what's in it for them, or what can we give them as a tangible benefit for them, as opposed to purely looking at it from us point.
100%. I'll give you a specific example. At the moment, one of the challenges that we have a business, and you're partly aware of this, but is the efficiency thing. You can't continue to scale, and we're growing pretty relatively fast.
Absolutely.
And you've got to look for efficiency, and that's a big thing in the industry at the moment, particularly for some of the bigger MSPs. So, but one of the things that we've struggled with in recent times is, and it's a really tangible, basic thing, but is back and forth between clients. As MSPs, we waste an enormous amount of period, and I speak to other MSP owners, and I say, look in your reporting and just look at the back and forth between engineer and client. The time wastage and the commitment of time is not there. So we've invested in some tools to help that in terms of calendar-based scheduling, and that's all linked into our systems. But old habits die hard. And that was a great example of us not implementing that. It's certainly got better, but not implementing that process with the team. We implemented the platform and the process and said, do it. Now, as I say, old habits die hard. So we're still seeing it's getting better and better. But that's brought a huge efficiencies, because we've got a committed end user and a committed engineer at a time, and things happen. So that's a good example of, as I say, old habits die hard, and the behavioural change. Had we done that with a lot of the other processes that we've done with you, in terms of, why are we doing this? Have you got input, testing, pilot groups? There's a number of, we all know the essence of good change management. I think we'd have had far greater adoption a lot quicker. So that was an example of not doing the right thing and probably, going at 1,000 miles an hour. But again, it's been good. If you don't have that accountability, if we haven't had that accountability from yourself, you probably don't. One of the big things is we all sort of know some of the deficiencies in our business, but we don't sit and reflect and go, why, and you ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's right.
So one of the big things of the academy process, I think a lot of people think it's about the tools, because I've spoken to some other people, you got all these tools. Look, it's great, but I keep coming back to the accountability of the questions. Why did you develop this? And even when we've almost got it right, you keep asking, why and what about this and what. So that's been the power of it.
Yeah. Sometimes to an annoying extent, but we get the outcome. Those little tweaks that we have mean that right now you've got your service manager who's away for a month.
Yeah, more than a month. Yep.
Over a month, and you were just saying before you haven't been emailed today.
Well, it's early in the day, but it's a good indication of great process.
Yeah.
And we've actually got a large portion of the management of our service desk away at the moment, in terms of a management and structure perspective. But the processes, we've got all the backstops in place to be able to manage that. We deal with a fair velocity of ticketing, so that's been fantastic. And just to touch on that, I mean, our service delivery manager, Caleb, who's a young guy, that's been another big part of the academy. We've got a really young leadership team. I'm probably more grey hairs. I'm not exactly in that bucket anymore, but
you're still at the younger end.
So that's got a lot of advantages because we've got enthusiasm. They all come from a background of hospitality in various areas that have got a passion for service. It's one of the things we look for in all of our employees is that passion for service and passion for IT. The rest comes. But with the leadership team, they've got that, and that accounts for most, of the success in regards to those individuals. But and then how's that look for the business? But the big thing with them that is missing is industry experience and the process and the accountability. So that's another big advantage is evolving those leaders away from just being good people, but to knowing this industry and evolving to something that's world class.
Yeah, that's a big focus. I like to see. It's a big focus for me, and something I want to see more in our industry is when we're creating and building leadership capability and management capability. We're not just creating people that are supervisors or can monitor people or minders. We want people that understand it and are looking at what we can improve and what we can do better, and going back to the data and the information and understanding what their team's driven and motivated by, and are able to actually build something and come to you with ideas, or come to their owners and managers and leaders with ideas or results of what they've done to improve the business. And that's something I think is critically lacking, is that young leadership capability coming through as more and more people are moving off into other roles and other people getting elevated who's coming and stepping into that. So it's something I really admire with how you're operating, is you're bringing in those younger people for the journey, and we're looking to set them up for success.
100%. And what that results in is you get a whole, particularly leaders, but you get a whole group of people in your leadership team that become really autonomous in the vision. They're not sort of saying, running off and saying, do this, do that, and to have no qualms. We've certainly fallen into that bracket, and but we get better of it. Particularly as a business owner, you're really passionate, and it's sometimes your way or the highway. You've got to, but that's a big thing of the academy is having those people think about things in a different way that's not coming from me. Yeah. Because I got no idea on most things. So so these guys that's what they're good at. Yeah. Is they're very good at that, but we've haven't to give that freedom, and it's come from someone else. You've done a really good job of that with, Caleb, and we've got another director that's just come on board as an owner and director, Dan. And, again, he's only young, but huge amounts of charisma and focus for customer service and all those sorts of things, and changing that mindset of going, okay, well, let's, we're about to do a piece with you around culture and things like that, which is going to be great, but, the numbers, with those guys we started to focus on, and service delivery and all the things that we've done, having them think autonomously in regards to the ideas, and I've just been able to let them run off and do their thing, and step out of that part of the business, which has been great. Yeah.
I know this is something that a lot of owners do struggle with, though, is who am I delegating it to? Who am I handing it down to? Who's going to be the people? Who's going to step up? And do I have to go to market and find someone to do this? Do you have any advice for anyone that's in that type of situation right now?
Yeah, I think I used to fall into. I'll talk from all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can go to conferences and various things and say, no matter not only in the MSP industry, but you've got to delegate. To be able to step out and look at your business and work on your business rather than in it. You've got to delegate. And I think we all, I used to fall into the trap and just start delegating.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Until you've got the systems and the processes and the numbers and all the things and giving people the autonomy to make a decision and make mistakes as well, then don't even start to delegate because it's all a waste of time. It just falls on your feet. And then all we fall back into, and I used to do the same thing, is, okay, well, I've just got to do it myself now because that was a disaster. It's fallen back on my lap. The client's upset and they're contacting me anyway, or it didn't get done and I've had to do it anyway. And then the oldie is, it's just quicker for me to do it anyway. But there's got to be an investment of time and accountability on the process side. So you're setting those people up for success, and accountability is another big one, and one that we are getting better at but need to get better at, is making sure that everyone in your business is aware of their accountabilities and responsibilities. Then when you delegate, they're empowered. They know exactly what they're doing, that it's delegated to the right person with the right level of accountability and a process around delegation. Who owns that? Are you handing off ownership? Because a lot of the time, what I used to do in mistakes is you delegate, but you actually don't hand responsibility and accountability and ownership. It's sort of like half given to people because you're a control freak. So that's a big one. And again, back to the academy, you've helped us with that to ensure that we've got the process. I mean, I've said it about 1,000 times in this conversation, but it's so important. And it was really highlighted. We thought we were pretty good. We were way off. So, and we still are.
There's so much to do, right?
There's so much to do because you get to one evolution of your business, and then all of a sudden you've taken on some more clients, and then that needs to change all again because what works today doesn't work tomorrow for a different size business and et cetera, and the people within it. So, you add more accountability and more levels of leadership and what have you. So I'm sure that'll evolve as well, and we'll be back to square one in 12 or 18 months or whenever it is.
And that accountability is a great point to bring up. With that is the expectations and being really clear on what those expectations are. So if you're accountable for service delivery, as an example, and what are my expectations of a well-run service delivery team or a service delivery manager? So, if you say I expect you to, run or own service delivery and you're accountable for it, from their perspective, what does that mean? That's where we've got to provide that guidance and that direction. So, we want to see a service gross margin continually hitting this. We want to see, X amount of age tickets, whatever it is that you're focused on. What's our CSAT response and what's our CSAT, overall satisfaction. If you say we want you to look after service delivery, they might just go, oh, well, there's 100 tickets in the queue, so I'm looking after service delivery, and every day they come in and they think they're doing a good job. So that expectation is really...
I think it's about the guidance of, working out what does matter and what is important, but then them really working out what the expectation of what, world-class looks like in service and what, world-class looks at in terms of profitability and EBITDA margins and making sure that. So there's a few points to that. It's making sure that the individual, it's just my personal belief, and it's certainly not the be-all and end-all, but them setting their own expectations around that. So guiding them, but then they own it. And also really giving the people in your leadership team, one thing that sort of changed with us, I'm a pretty private person, and you could say, that, and I've never sort of been one to open up the sort of behind the scenes of our books and things like that, but we've done that with our leadership team. And it's the best thing that we've ever done because it's provided them some accountability and some, what are the expectations and where are we heading and things like that, more ownership. So it's just a better process to be able to feel like they're part of a bigger picture. And that's been a big thing, a big change because a lot of people, and rightly so, it's a lot of businesses don't feel comfortable. We run the EOS process as well to a certain degree. We mix it in with a few other things. And that process also pushed us down the path of sort of being a little bit more accountable to our numbers within our leadership team. Because ultimately, we're here to make money. You know, we've all got passions for IT and all that sort of stuff. That's partly the reason why a lot of MSPs started, is because, you know, there were, you know, a bunch of nerds and you want to provide decent service, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you want to better yourself and make a decent living. But it's an important part.
It is, yeah. You can't be a business that provides good services and great experience if you don't have profit, because you won't be a business at some point.
Yeah,
so,
correct.
Yeah.
So I think, look, what I did want to cover today is thank you, because you know, it's been a great journey. As I say, it feels, in some senses, feel like a really long time, and others it feels like we've only just got started and we've hardly, you know, done anything. But we had a bit of a reflection moment in the last week on how much we've done through this process.
Yeah.
And then we're excited about, you know, what the next piece looks like, and drilling into that and expanding our sales capability, culture, redefining our numbers, etc. So I think we've got an exciting 12 months, and interesting to see where you take us, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, mate.